Hey guys, Robert Max here, and welcome to Gold Key Geezer episode number 4. This is going to be the first installment in the Bronze Age Apocalypse category, and it is going to be a repeat from the old channel, so I hope you don't mind that. But it's a Len Wein one-shot, and it's also a Gold Key comic, and it's called The Microbots, with a cover date of December 1971. You know, the number code, you've heard Grok 2 Orloff and Graphic Man talk about that. I wasn't really aware of that before Graphic Man mentioned it. But this is a post-apocalyptic tale. Fits right in, you know, with my interest. It says Dr. Micron's fantastic creatures help two boys face the primitive world of the future. There's no credits for the cover, at least from the Grand Comics database, but it is a painted cover. You can see this, there is a Cthulhu sort of looking character with tusks attacking these two boys and these small creatures, I guess you'd say, which are the microbots, are trying to free them. This kid's name is Vic, and this one who's dressed more contemporarily, if that's a word, you know, with the t-shirt, jeans, and the high-top Chuck Taylors. His name is Jeff Micron. He's the son of Dr. Micron in this book. So this was a toy line. These creatures was a Kenner toy line. And, you know, with the December cover date on this book, it was out in the fall, you know, in the late fall. So boys would have had the opportunity to tell their parents about these toys, or would they? You know, how was the actual promotion? And speaking of promotions, is this the first cross promotion? You know, the first toy comic cross promotion? I don't know. You know, I can think of things like ROM, which was a Marvel comic in, the late 70s, which was a toy promotion, cross-promotion. But this was a toy as well. And it was made by Kenner, who often would have, you know, the 16-page fun catalog, you know, in Gold Key Comics. So we'll take a look at this post-apocalyptic tale when I put it on the table, and we'll do that when I get back. So I hope you stick around.
The other night, my son and I really fought it out, man to man. You see, we got this new model car racing set called Class A Open Track Racing. Open track means there are no slots, no lanes. Cars can pass on either side, bump, even sideswipe. But this requires split-second control. Class A racing doesn't need batteries or electricity. You gotta make pit stops to pick up your power. Well, with only 7 laps to go, I pulled off the track. But Gary ignored my advice and gambled on finishing without making a final pit stop. I was back on the track in 5.5 seconds. Good time. But Gary had gained a lap lead. Then, coming into his last lap, he ran out of power and was just coasting. I picked up a full lap and caught him right on the finish line.
Class A racing, no slots, no lanes, and it doesn't need batteries or electricity. It's ideal.
Okay, we're back. You know, I was hoping to find a Microbots commercial to be the segue leading into, you know, this segment of Gold Key Geezer, but unfortunately I couldn't find anything on YouTube. So I settled for another toy from 1971, the same year as this comic. Gotta say, I don't recall Class A slotless model car racing from Ideal. I do not recall that. It looks like a pretty cool toy. Was it air powered? I'm not sure. Did they use pneumatics, or, you know, since it said no electricity or batteries necessary? And it looks like Dad showed his son how it's done in that commercial. But anyway, before we actually get to the comic, I wanted to talk a little bit more about these microbots. Now, here you'll see one of them in the retail blister packaging. This is the way these toys were released back in 1971. They all have names. There were 8 of them. I believe this one is called Cranktor or Crankor. You can see the little cranks on its arms, and they are die cast with some kind of metal. They have the little attachments on the front and back that you can connect them together as trains. But anyway, that's what the toys look like when they were out on the shelves in the stores, toy stores, and department stores. Did come across some interesting stuff on the web, and here's a 2-page spread from Kenner toy dealer catalog. This isn't something that we would have seen. This went out to toy dealers, toy buyers for department stores, things like that, showing all the new products, trying to entice them to buy these things. And we see this two-page spread with this little boy playing with the 8 different microbots. And on the right-hand side of the page, you see that there are these platforms and chutes or ramps that can be purchased, I assume separately as as accessories to allow you to build things or, erect things with these microbots. But really interesting, as you can see in the upper left side of the page, and I blew this up, we see a cover for a comic book. Now, it's not the same comic book that we're going to look at least not the cover. It's probably just a rough draft. But there's a statement here: late this summer, an exciting new comic book will appear on newsstands across the nation. It will tell the fascinating story of a world destroyed by pollution to be rebuilt by microbots, the strongest helpers mankind has known. Their exciting adventures will thrill millions, mind you, of comic book readers and introduce them to the remarkable world of the microbots. So, there's Kenner trying to tell these dealers and buyers, hey, this comic book's coming out. Millions of kids are going to read this and be exposed to these microbots. You need to buy these toys. So let's take a look at the book. So here we are, the microbots, number 1. We're told it's brand new. As we know, it's the only one. And this cover is a painted cover. I did not find any credits for the artist on the cover. Grand Comics Database had question marks for that. Could be George Wilson. He did do a lot of Gold Key stuff. Kind of looks like his style, but I am not enough of a George Wilson expert to make a claim on that. But we see this Cthulhu-looking character I mentioned in the opening, with the tusks. And he's got these 2 boys in tow, or not in tow, he has them trapped in his tentacles, and some of the microbots as well, and they're trying to fight off this creature. They're using their lasers and, their other apparatuses, or is that a word? I don't know. To fight off this creature. And you can see here what I was talking about, how these things can be hooked together. So anyway, we're not going to do a panel-by-panel retelling of this, but it's definitely well worth a read. Now, before we get into the story at all, I do have credits for the interior of the book. It's a script, as I mentioned earlier, by Len Wein. The artist is a little bit in question. There's some controversy. Some people say it's pencils and inks by Jack Sparling. Others say it's pencils by Jack Sparling, inks by Jesse Santos. I'm not sure. It's really not important. But we get this 1-page splash with this creature here again. And we see Dr. Micron, his son Jeff, and this boy Vic fighting off the creature. Of course, this occurs later in the story. But this basically tells the story of this Dr. Micron and his son Jeff. And the world they live in, our world, is dying. Pollution, man's neglect of the planet, wars, just everything that could or was going wrong, with our world in the early 70s has come to a head, and the planet is dying. And everyone knows this. And Dr. Micron's been working on a solution. And the other people that, are living in the area, they all decide they're going to go to the mountains. They think their chances of survival are better there. Dr. Micron decides to stay with his son Jeff in tow, and they're going to stay in this subterranean laboratory that Dr. Micron operates, and they're going to use these creatures that he has created, the microbots, to try to save the world. They see the people leaving. I guess you really can't see that. Let me move this a little bit. These people are heading to the mountains. They watch them leave. Dr. Micron comes to the realization, that as good as these creations are, the microbots, they really can't do anything right now. They're trapped in this building. I failed, Jeff. He says, there is no antidote, no hope. We've risked our lives for nothing. And he decides that both of them are going to go into suspended animation, which they do here, and hope, that the human race makes it, and they'll be found and revived, and but they'll never know until, unless that happens. And, interestingly, down here in the lower left corner of this panel, if you can see my pen, is a big red button. And that may be important. Probably is going to be important a little bit later. And we're told here there's a hiss of gas, and then all is silent as they go into suspended animation. Here we get a Mark Jeweler ad. It's not an insert, just a one-page ad. So anyway, time passes. Nature, the great equalizer, acts. With swiftly passing years, metamorphosis begins, and the polluted impurity that was civilization gradually vanishes back into obscurity, leaving the world clean again, with only scattered remnants of the human race. And these people that survived, they have, society has reverted to, I guess you could say, prehistoric times. You see, they're dressed in loincloths and whatnot. And there's this boy, Vic, who we saw in the opening page right here, Vic. He's a young boy who's sort of shunned by his people. He wants to be a great hunter. He heads out on his own, and he comes across that Cthulhu-looking thing, which he calls a hydropoid. Kind of looks like a cross between Cthulhu and an elephant. And I guess that's one of the mutations that, these changes to the earth, that's one of the results of things. So, he realizes, that he can't fight off this creature. He's doomed. He takes off running. He bolts and comes across the subsidence down here, and he falls down into what ends up being, Dr. Micron's subterranean laboratory. And of course, he sees the big, shiny red button. And of course, he presses that button, which releases Dr. Micron and Jeff from suspended animation. They introduce themselves to each other. There's a little bit of culture shock on both ends here. They're trying to figure out how much time has passed. This kid doesn't really understand these guys, the way they're dressed or the way they look. And, they're having this discussion, and doesn't the hydropoid come down through the same subsidence? So a battle ensues where the microbots assist Dr. Micron and Jeff and Vic, and they defeat this hydropoid. But due to that battle, the structure of this laboratory was weakened, and there ends up being a cave-in. And heroically, Dr. Micron pushes Jeff and Vic out of the way, but he's crushed under a bunch of falling rocks. So, they clear the rocks out to uncover Dr. Micron, and he's dying, unfortunately. And there's some sad panels here. This page in particular. And you know what? Len Wein's script is, in my opinion, just great for this. It's age appropriate, yet it's very emotional, and Just a great, well, the guy's a legend. What can I say? Anyhow, excuse me again. Dr. Micron dies. He tells Jeff, you've got to go on. You've got to try to save the planet. That's what we need to do. He gives his medallion to Jeff and tells him to give it to Vic because you need this amulet, this medallion, to control the microbots. So they bury Dr. Micron and they head off into the darkness with the microbots in tow. And the last line of this first part of the story tells us, and the evening and the morning were the first day. So that's how part one ends. And part two, or chapter two, is called Day of the Juggernaut. So Vic gets this idea, hey, let's you and me and the microbots go back to my people and, maybe we can save this world, this world that you were telling me about, how great it was. Well, they come back, but unfortunately, the tribe still doesn't care much for Vic, and they certainly don't want any strangers or these strange creatures around, and they're sent away. They start throwing stones at them, and they tell them, get lost. So these two boys are out on their own, with the microbots. And one of the microbots helps them start a campfire at night, and they're having a discussion, Vic says, well, where will we go now? What will we do? I wanted to help my people. What do we have left? And Jeff says, well, we can't quit now before we've even begun. I promised Dad I'd rebuild a new world, Vic. And somehow, some way, we've got to do it. And I think this is just this last panel here on this page is just a great piece of artwork. You see this boy staring into the campfire with a look of hope in his eyes. And so what they do is, they kind of go off on their own. They're living off the land, eating apples from trees, and they come across the remnants of an old army base, from the world before. And they find on this army base these prefabricated steel sheets that Jeff gets the idea, if we want people to know we're here to help, we have to build something to let them see us. So we're going to build a city, and that's what's depicted in this panel here. If you remember back to that toy dealer catalog, you saw those accessories that could be purchased. I think that's what they're trying to show us here. While they're building the city, some other natives come running by and they say there's a thunder beast in the area, and it turns out to be this war tank, from the previous world, and it's firing its guns. And so Jeff and Vic sweep into action and activate the microbots. They take on this tank. One of them gets crushed and they think it's gone, but they come to find out, nope, it just, it survived being run over by the treads of this tank. And Jeff says, when Dad said he built those things to last, he meant it. Now, you think maybe they're trying to tell you that these toys are built to last? I don't know. But anyway, they decide we got to fight off this war tank or war machine or whatever it is. So they activate the microbots, and the microbots, utilizing their ray guns, disable the tank. They climb on top to see what's inside, but it starts to catch on fire. These guys jump out of it, and doesn't the tank explode? And these guys, it turns out these people that were inside the tank were just some other primitive folk who somehow managed to figure out how to operate this thing and had plans to take over the world. So Jeff and Vic say, you know what, get lost, get out of here and tell your people that a new day is coming. And Vic says to Jeff then, and us, Jeff, what about us? And in the final panel, Jeff says, we've still got a city to build. At least it's a beginning. And that's how this comic ends. So here we see on the back page, the back cover, a full-page advertisement for SSP. Another Kenner toy, right? Microbots. Kenner toy. Do you recall anywhere as I paged through this book seeing an advertisement or any kind of mention in this story of these microbots being toys? No. because there is no mention of it. So if we go back to that toy dealer catalog where they tell you, millions, and I'm sure it wasn't millions. There may have been a lot of kids that read this book. I don't know, but millions, highly unlikely. Millions of comic book readers are going to be exposed to the microbots. So you need to buy this toy line because it's going to be a hot seller, this Christmas season. Well, okay, comic book readers who read this title were exposed to the microbots, but they had no clue that it was a toy line because we're not told that anywhere in here. And, also, to my best recollection, any of the comics that I've seen from this period, that carry the, now I'm talking about Gold Key and Whitman, well, Gold Key, any of them that carry that 16-page fun catalog banner at the top, where Kenner would place as a centerfold a 16-page insert advertising their toys. Usually, it would be in comics that were on the shelves in the fall for the upcoming Christmas season. I don't ever recall seeing anything for any microbot toys. So, although you can't really say that Kenner was promoting the comic book, I mean, they were at least letting these dealers know that, hey, there's going to be a comic out there. Comic readers are going to see these toys and they're going to want to buy them. They weren't really promoting the comic book per se. They were just, using it as a sales pitch. However, on the other end, I feel that Gold Key really dropped the ball. I think the comic is a great comic. It's, unfortunately, it's the only one. As you can tell by the ending, it was left wide open for a continuation, which never happened. Len Wein's script, I thought, was superb, not his best work, but the guy was just an incredible writer. And whoever did the artwork, be it Sparling and Santos, I thought they did a fine job on it. Some of it looks like somebody, I don't know. You know what, I'm going to let that go as far as who the artist was. The comic, I like this comic a lot. Fits well into the Bronze Age apocalypse theme that I like. That is an interest of mine. But as far as the toy tie-in, if this was the first one, I don't know. I think it's an epic failure. Maybe that's why there was only one issue, and maybe that's why I don't remember these toys, because I do not remember these toys. And in 1971, I would have been, late summer into the fall of 71, would have, whoops, sorry about that, would have been the beginning. Here, this camera mount, the one that I always say, or used to say in the old channel, I need to replace. Yeah, well, I'm still using it. Anyway, 71, late summer, fall of 71, I would have been going into second grade. I would have been a prime candidate, to purchase these toys. And I do not remember them. And I have a pretty good memory. I don't remember everything, but I remember a lot of things from my childhood. I do not remember these toys. None of my friends had them. I never saw a commercial on TV. So, yeah, I just think it was a half-cocked promotion. Like I said, was it the first one? I don't know. I know there was DC published Hot Wheels, which I guess was kind of a toy tie-in. I don't think they actually utilized, the Hot Wheels cars in the comic. Maybe they did. I'm not super familiar with that. That would have been a few years before this. And also, Gold Key had another comic called Mod Wheels. Now, it in of itself is not a tie-in, but sometimes the covers would have the SSP logo on them, if I remember correctly. I don't have any of them in my collection right now, but I kind of just remember looking at some cover art. But anyway, yeah, I think this was a total failure. And as far as a toy promotion, as far as a comic, not bad. Great addition to the Bronze Age Apocalypse and to the Gold Key collection. So that's going to do it for this episode of Gold Key Geezer. I'd like to thank you for your patience if you stuck around to the end. And I'll be back again sometime. Oh, before I go, please, if you haven't subscribed, please consider doing so. Liking this video if you liked it. And also consider hitting that notification bell so you'll be notified when I post any new videos. That's going to do it for this episode. I'll be back in the near future with another one, and until then, take care.